Ava never believed in ghost stories, especially not the ones shared during lunch at Westwood High. They were always too dramatic, too ridiculous. But something about the hallway on the East Wing made her uneasy. It didn't appear on any of the school maps, and no one could explain why the janitor always locked it with a heavy, rusted chain. When Ava asked a teacher about it, they brushed it off. "That part's under renovation," they'd say. But the hallway never showed any signs of construction, just silence, and that cold draft. It started the week Ava stayed late after theater practice. The rest of the cast had already gone home, and she was in the dressing room picking up her script. The school was unusually quiet, that type of silence where you start to hear your own thoughts a little too loud. As she walked past the East Wing, she heard footsteps. Not loud or hurried, just soft, almost careful. She paused. When she looked behind, the corridor was empty. She laughed it off, assuming it was just her imagination playing games again. But the air felt different, dense. The next day, Ava mentioned it to Leo, the only other student who seemed curious about strange things. "You heard the footsteps?" he asked, like it wasn't even a weird question. He told her there were rumors that part of the school didn't belong there, that it used to be part of another building that was demolished decades ago, and somehow the hallways still persisted. "Places remember things," Leo said, "especially when people try to forget them." Ava thought he was being dramatic, until she found the photo. She was looking through old yearbooks in the library, trying to find a picture of her mom, who had also gone to Westwood High. In one of the black and white pages from the 1980s, Ava spotted something strange. A group photo of a class standing in front of the East Wing. But behind them, where the hallway should have been, was just a blank wall. No door, no chain, just brick. She flipped through newer editions, but none of them showed that area again. It was like it had been erased from memory. That night, Ava dreamed about the hallway. In her dream, she was walking down it alone. The lights above flickered, and she could hear someone whispering her name, soft and drawn out. She turned around, but no one was there. The walls were lined with lockers, but they were old, covered in stickers from decades ago. One was slightly open. As she reached for it, a voice in her head screamed not to. She woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. It felt more like a memory than a dream. She kept the dream to herself, unsure if telling Leo would make things feel too real. Instead, she avoided the East Wing entirely. But that only made her more curious. One evening, she snuck her phone into school after hours, hoping to get a video of the hallway. She didn't even know what she expected. Maybe a door opening on its own, or some ghostly figure walking by. But when she pointed her phone toward the hallway, it didn't show up on screen. The hallway was there. She could see it. But her phone camera just showed a blank wall. She ran. The next morning, she tried again in daylight, but her phone captured the hallway just fine. That's when she noticed something else. In every picture, the hallway looked slightly different. The lockers were different colors. The signs were from older decades. One frame even had a poster advertising prom in 1977. The school didn't even exist then. Ava felt a growing dread settle in her stomach. This wasn't just a haunted hallway. It was something disconnected from time. Determined to understand what was happening, Ava visited the town records office. Most people wouldn't go that far, but something about the hallway felt like it was connected to her. There, buried in dusty files, she found a newspaper article from 1985. 4 students go missing in mysterious school disappearance. No names were listed, just the location, Westwood High, and a blurry photo of the East Wing entrance. It looked exactly the same as it did now, chain and all. That night, Leo called her in a panic. He had been researching too. "I think I know why your phone couldn't see the hallway," he said. "It's not always here." According to his research, the hallway had a pattern, showing up fully only during certain weeks of the year. This was one of those weeks. "It's like a glitch," he said. "A memory that doesn't know it's supposed to be gone." Ava didn't want to believe it, but something inside her did. Maybe the hallway wanted to be found. The next evening, they made a plan. They'd go together during the same hour she had heard the footsteps. Bring flashlights, recorders, and this time, Leo would film with a 90s camcorder he borrowed from his uncle. If this place is stuck in time, maybe old tech can catch it, he reasoned. As the sun set and shadows stretched across the school halls, Ava felt her stomach twist. The moment they stepped into the East Wing, the temperature dropped. The hallway was waiting. As Ava and Leo stepped into the East Wing, the world felt off. The hum of the lights above didn't sound like modern electricity. It buzzed like old filament bulbs struggling to stay alive. Their footsteps echoed too sharply, like they were walking through a gymnasium instead of a hallway. Leo's camcorder flickered as it recorded, sometimes showing colors that didn't match reality. The lockers weren't the same as earlier that day. Now they were all brown, dented and covered in faded graffiti from another generation. They didn't speak much as they walked. Every sound they made felt amplified, and whispering somehow seemed louder than talking. They passed a classroom with the number Room 8 on the door, except their school didn't have a Room 8. It only had 3 classrooms in this wing, all numbered in the hundreds. Ava reached for the door handle and it felt warm. Not just body temperature warm, like it had been held by someone seconds before. She looked at Leo and he nodded once. They opened it together. Inside, the classroom was perfectly still, but not empty. Desks were neatly arranged, chalk was set on the board tray, and an old analog clock ticked softly on the wall, reading 3:17. Ava immediately noticed something unsettling. None of the chairs had dust on them. Someone had been here. Recently. She walked over to the teacher's desk and opened the drawer. Inside was a folder. When she opened it, she nearly dropped it. Inside were names. 4 of them. The missing students from the 80s. Each page had a black and white photo paperclipped to it. Beside each face was a date, a locker number, and a final line labeled Observed Behavior. Ava read one. Subject 1 continues repeating Tuesday, unable to remember incident. Another said, Subject 2 unaware of looping, believes today is orientation day. Leo looked pale. They're still here, he whispered. They never left. Ava shook her head. Or maybe this place kept them, a version of them. As they left the classroom, the hallway had shifted. Literally. The door they'd come through was now a brick wall, like the layout had reconfigured behind them. What the hell? Leo muttered. The air felt heavier, and the lights above now buzzed brighter, more erratic. Ava felt a pressure in her chest, like the hallway was holding its breath. The camcorder buzzed. Leo looked down and saw that it had stopped recording at the exact moment they'd opened the folder. Time's different here, Leo said, half to himself. We're not just in the past. We're in something else. A memory loop or a preserved moment. Ava didn't fully understand what he meant, but she could feel it too. Her phone had no signal. The screen showed no date available. And worse, when she checked her call history, the names were jumbled, like the device was glitching inside a different timeline. We need to find an exit before this place forgets we don't belong, she said. They picked a direction and ran, the hallway stretching unnaturally long, the lights dimming behind them. But no matter how far they went, the same 3 classroom doors kept appearing. Room 8, Room 9, Room 11, then again, Room 8. Over and over, it was a loop. It's not physical, Ava said, stopping to catch her breath. It's architectural memory. This place is reusing space like a bad dream. Leo looked down at the folder. Maybe the students aren't trapped physically, but mentally. Suddenly, a locker banged shut behind them. They both turned, hearts in their throats. A locker door swung open slowly on its own. Ava approached it cautiously. Inside was a notebook. It looked brand new, except the date on the cover read 1985. She opened it. On the first page, written in pen, "If you're reading this, don't trust the girl in the red jacket. She isn't one of us anymore. Ava froze. She was wearing a red jacket. Leo's eyes went wide. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Ava didn't answer. The notebook suddenly felt cold in her hands, like metal left out in the winter. She flipped through more pages. They were full of frantic, repetitive writing. Time resets. Time resets. Time resets. Then one entry in shaky handwriting. She remembers different things each loop. She learns. She follows us. She looks like Ava. Her blood ran cold. Either someone was playing a sick joke, or this place had been expecting her. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. A high-pitched screech rang through the hall, like an alarm crossed with static. They covered their ears, and the notebook burst into flames in her hands, vanishing into ash before it even hit the ground. "We need to go now," Ava shouted. But as they turned, the hallway behind them was gone, replaced with endless rows of lockers that stretched into darkness. And far at the end, barely visible, a figure stood watching. They didn't run. Not exactly. It was more like stumbling forward, breath caught somewhere between fear and confusion. Behind them, the hallway was gone, swallowed up by walls that hadn't been there moments before. Ava kept glancing back, but the figure had vanished. "This place is shifting," she muttered, "like it's reacting to us." Leo didn't respond. He was focused on his camcorder. "It's recording again," he whispered. "But the time code says 1985, not real time." They reached a door marked maintenance and slipped inside, locking it behind them. The air was dusty, filled with the smell of wet concrete and copper. There were tools scattered around, broken janitorial equipment, and a mirror propped up against the wall. It was old, edges rusted, glass a bit warped. Ava walked up to it instinctively. "This is the only thing that looks normal," she said. But as she looked into it, her reflection didn't match her movements. Her hands were still. But the reflection? It waved. Leo saw it too. "Nope," he said immediately. "Nope, nope, nope." But then something worse happened. The reflection didn't just wave. It smiled. Slowly, like it knew something they didn't. Ava backed away, but her reflection stayed close to the glass. "That's not me," she whispered. "It looks like me, but it's not." The reflection mouthed something. 4 words. "Don't trust your memory." Leo threw a cloth over the mirror, and the tension in the room dropped instantly, like it had been holding its breath. "That thing isn't a reflection," he said. "It's an observer, maybe even a recorder." Ava shivered. Why does it know us? Why does it smile like we're the punchline to something we don't get? She tried to shake it off, but the words stuck in her mind. "Don't trust your memory." Was that a warning or a threat? They sat for a while in silence, trying to figure out their next move. Ava pulled out her phone again, even though she knew it wouldn't work. But this time, there was a message notification. No sender. Just the words. 3 loops left. Leo saw it too. What does that mean? That we only get 3 tries? Or we're already on our 3rd? Ava didn't know, but deep down, she was starting to feel it. Things were repeating, slightly different each time, and she was remembering more. They opened the maintenance closet and carefully stepped out. The hallway had changed again. Now the floor tiles were checkerboard black and white, and the walls were covered in faded school play posters from decades ago. One in particular caught Ava's eye. A drama club flyer for a production of Our Town. The names of the student cast were listed, and one of them was her mother. "What the hell?" she muttered. She never went to school here. She lived across town. Leo leaned in. Maybe she did, in this version of the school. Ava's hands shook as she touched the poster. It felt new, not like a 40-year-old print. "What if this place is pulling from people connected to us?" she said. "Not just us, but our family, our memories." It made a twisted kind of sense. The looping, the names in the folder, the personalized warnings. It wasn't random. This school was remembering people who had forgotten it. They walked deeper into the hallway and reached a split. One path had lights, the other was pitch black. Classic choice, Leo joked nervously. Certain death, or very likely death? Ava chose the dark path. We've been reacting this whole time, she said. Let's be unpredictable for once. As they stepped into the dark corridor, they used the flashlight from Leo's bag. The beam caught something on the wall. Carvings, deep scratches forming words. I was her once. Ava touched the wall. The scratches were fresh. Do you think that was me? She asked. Leo didn't answer. The air turned colder. A whisper floated through the corridor. Female, close but not quite human. It repeated the same sentence over and over. Don't let her find the door. Ava turned sharply. Who's her? But Leo was staring ahead, frozen. I think we're not supposed to leave, he said. Not because we can't, but because we're carrying something. Out. Suddenly, the flashlight blinked, and when it came back on, the hallway had ended. A single wooden door stood in front of them. Carved into the top were the words, Exit 4. Ava reached for the handle, but it was ice cold, and her hand burned from the touch. She pulled back. On the wall beside the door, scribbled in charcoal, were the words, Every exit is an entrance for her. Leo stepped back. If we open that, we let her in too. Ava didn't open the door. She couldn't. Something about it felt final. Like crossing through would mean leaving behind something important. Herself, maybe. Leo wasn't pushing her either. He just kept glancing at the hallway behind them, which was slowly shifting again. This place moved like it breathed. Ava turned back to the door and pressed her ear against the wood. She expected silence, but instead she heard a lullaby, one she hadn't heard since she was 5. It wasn't just any lullaby. It was the one her mother used to hum when she had nightmares. A song Ava hadn't thought about in years. That's what broke her. That's when she realized this place wasn't just messing with her reality. It was pulling forgotten things from her brain, like memories in a blender. We're not just being haunted, she said quietly. We're being studied, and it's learning fast. Leo nodded slowly. Maybe that's why it keeps resetting things. They turned back and followed a new hallway that had appeared behind them. It led into what looked like an old classroom, desks scattered, chalkboards covered in overlapping writing. It was hard to read any one sentence, but when they stepped closer, the words, I was her once, appeared again. This time etched across the entire wall in what looked like fingernail scratches. Ava stared at it. I think she's not a ghost. I think she's what's left of someone like us. Leo walked to the back of the room and found a small locker. It wasn't locked, and inside was a notebook. It looked like it had belonged to a student, but the name had been scratched out violently. The pages were filled with notes, but they weren't school-related. They were journal entries, panic-filled, loops, glitches in memory. Each entry got shorter, more frantic, until the last page, which simply read, She doesn't like being remembered. Ava closed the book, heart racing. What if she is memory itself? She whispered. Like, the form memory takes when it's broken? Leo looked sick. So the more we remember, the more real she becomes? It felt right in the worst way. The silence in the classroom deepened. And then, chalk moved on the board. Not a lot. Just a drag. As if an invisible hand was writing something. Slowly, painfully slow, it spelled, You're not supposed to know. Without thinking, they ran. Not toward the door, not back into the hallway, but into the crawl space behind the teacher's desk. It was barely big enough for one person, but they squeezed in. Once inside, everything changed. The sounds of the building faded. The lights went out. But there was another light, faint and bluish. It was coming from inside a VHS player, in the crawl space. with a tape inside already. The label? Ava, 5th grade. Leo stared at her. You were recorded? Ava's throat was dry. That shouldn't exist. My 5th grade school burned down. Nothing survived. But the tape was real. They pushed it into the player. The screen lit up, showing footage of a classroom. Kids were seated, but the teacher had no face, just static where it should be. And there, in the front row, was Ava. Except she was older. Her now self sitting in the past, staring directly at the camera. That's today, Leo whispered. That's you, right now. The camera in the footage moved closer, shaky and unstable. Ava on screen raised a finger to her lips, shh, and then pointed off screen. The footage glitched, the screen filled with static. Then another message scrawled in flickering white. There are 2 of her now. The VHS player sparked and died. Ava sat frozen. What if I'm not the first Ava to make it this far? She asked. What if I'm the copy? Leo didn't answer. He was staring at the wall. A shape was forming in the peeling paint. At first, it looked like water damage. But the longer they stared, the clearer it became. A girl's face. Eyes hollow, smile sharp. She's coming through, he said, voice shaking. Ava grabbed his arm. We have to leave. I don't care where that hallway goes. We're not staying here. But when they turned to crawl back out, there was no way out. Just darkness. And that song, playing again. The lullaby echoed like it was in their bones now. Ava covered her ears, but the sound was inside her head. The words kept repeating. Close your eyes and count to 10. You'll be back with me again. Her breathing went ragged. The walls of the crawl space began pulsing, like veins under skin. Leo was whispering something, over and over. Don't forget you're real. Don't forget you're real. And Ava realized she wasn't sure if she still was. They didn't scream. Not because they weren't scared, but because the fear was past that. Beyond panic, into paralysis. The crawl space around them pulsed like lungs, like they were inside something alive. Leo's nails dug into the wood, trying to find any crack, any exit. But it was all sealed. Ava stared at the wall in front of her, where her name had been slowly etching itself letter by letter. Not once, but twice. One in red, one in black. Which one was her? Suddenly, the space snapped back open. They fell through, just dropped straight into the nurse's office, or something that resembled it. The room had that weird green glow hospitals have at night, but the walls were wrong. Too soft, breathing. The nurse wasn't a person. It was a figure made of gauze, walking on all fours like it had forgotten how to be human. Ava backed away fast, but the figure just turned its head, if that's what it was, and whispered. She left a piece behind. Leo grabbed Ava and ran. The halls had changed again. No lockers, no windows. Just long stretches of nothing with doors that led to nothing. They tried opening one, just white static behind it. Another door showed a clip of Ava crying in her bedroom, but there was no camera. It was a live feed. How are they watching us? Ava gasped. Leo looked pale. Maybe they're not watching. Maybe we're projecting. Our memories, they're leaking. They finally found the stairwell, but it didn't go down. It went up, infinitely up, like a loop. No ceiling, just stairs. Leo took the lead. We have to go somewhere. Anywhere Ava hesitated. What if we're not moving? What if this is just the memory of moving? He laughed bitterly. Then I say we keep remembering it until something breaks. They climbed, for what felt like hours. The same flickering light overhead. The same water stain. Over. And over. On the 50-something turn, they found a door. Just floating in the middle of the stairwell. No wall, no hinges. Just standing there. And something behind it was breathing. Ava reached for it. Leo stopped her. Last time we opened a door, we lost time. You changed. You forgot who you were. Ava looked at him. What if I am the thing on the other side? What if that's what I've been trying to remember? He didn't stop her this time. The door opened. Blackness. Not dark like night. Dark like void. Like it sucked the light in. They stepped through. Instantly, they were in a cafeteria. But it was full of kids who didn't have faces. Just smooth skin where eyes and mouths should be. Yet somehow, Ava knew every one of them. By name. By favorite color. Why do I know them? She whispered. A girl stood up. Her head slowly turned toward Ava, a stitched smile splitting her entire face. You made me, the stitched girl said. Her voice sounded like static and wind chimes. You remember me wrong, so I came out wrong. Ava froze. Leo stepped in front of her. We didn't make you. We're just trying to get out. The girl nodded. Exactly, trying. But you forgot something. You forgot the first rule. Ava felt dizzy. Her head spun. What rule? The stitched girl whispered it. Who you are is who you remember. Suddenly, Ava's arms felt different. Heavier. Her hands looked smaller. Her clothes changed. She looked down. She was in a third-grade uniform. Leo stared at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. You're different. She touched her face. I don't feel like Ava anymore. The stitched girl smiled wider. Good. That means the trade worked. One version out. One version and Ava blinked. The other kids started chanting softly. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Leo shook her. You have to fight this. You're not some fragment. You're you. But Ava was slipping. Her voice changed pitch. Her thoughts were slowing, like her real self was being reformatted. She grabbed his wrist. If I forget you, promise you'll remember me. Leo's voice cracked. Always. But the cafeteria faded. The sound of lunch trays turned into dripping water. The chant morphed into one endless hum. Ava closed her eyes and whispered her own name again and again. When she opened them, she was back in her childhood bedroom. The exact same pink curtains, the same posters, the same stuffed bear with the missing eye. But her reflection in the mirror was blank, just a vague blur of features. She turned to the camera on her desk, recording, red light blinking. A note stuck to it. Upload this when you wake up. They won't believe you, but she will. Ava read the name on the envelope. It wasn't hers. It said, Ava. Vifta. Ava sat still, staring at the envelope. Her fingers trembled as she peeled it open, half expecting dust to pour out or for it to burst into flames. Instead, there was a single Polaroid. No image, just static fuzz. But on the back, scribbled in shaky pen, you're not the first version to read this. You won't be the last. But you might be the one who stops it. She looked up. Her reflection still had no face, no eyes, no mouth. But somehow, it was smiling. Her laptop flickered on. She hadn't touched it. A video began to play, one she'd never recorded. It showed her and Leo in the hallway, but from a camera angle that didn't exist. A third perspective. The sound was muted, but she could see their lips moving. She tried to read them. Over and over, Ava said, I don't think this is our school. Leo kept responding, then whose is it? The video glitched, froze, rewound, played again, looping, but each time, slightly different. Her laptop flickered on. She hadn't touched it. A video began to play, one she'd never recorded. It showed her and Leo in the hallway, but from a camera angle that didn't exist. A third perspective. The sound was muted, but she could see their lips moving. She tried to read them. Over and over, Ava said, I don't think this is our school. Leo kept responding, then whose is it? The video glitched, froze, rewound, played again, looping. But each time, slightly different. Leo wasn't in the room with her. He never had been. Or maybe he had, in a different version. One where she never opened the floating door. One where she ran instead. Her memories were overlapping. Ava stood slowly, the world around her warping like heat haze. Her bedroom bled into the school hallway. Then the nurse's office. Then the staircase. All stacked. All visible at once, like windows layered in an editing program. She blinked. One layer vanished, then another. Voices whispered from behind her closet. Familiar and unfamiliar. Some sounded like teachers, others like her. Or maybe versions of her. She pulled the door open and saw nothing, just depth. A hallway that shouldn't be there, but different from before. It pulsed with light. Not red, not blue. Something uncolorable. Her name was painted on the walls over and over, each one signed differently. Ava, Ava.02, Ava X, Ava Loop, Ava Lost. How many of her were trapped here? She heard humming, a lullaby, one her mom used to sing. Or had she? The memory came with warmth, then icy doubt. The voices got louder, urgent, angry. You weren't supposed to open the loop. You're rewriting the seed. Do you even know what you are? Ava stepped into the hallway. The door shut behind her, vanishing. Her phone lit up with a new notification. Airdrop from unknown. Exit code? She tapped accept without thinking. Everything went black. Not unconscious, just erased. Like her entire sensory system had been overwritten. She could still think, but couldn't feel. Couldn't see. A voice echoed in the void, her own but robotic, filtered. Do you wish to restore to the last stable identity? She hesitated. What if the last stable one wasn't really her? What if that version had been scared, small, forgotten? Then again, was she any version anymore? A small orb of light appeared in front of her. It flickered like a dying star. Inside it, her and Leo laughing. From middle school. A memory she'd forgotten. Or maybe one she'd never lived. The orb pulsed. Pressed to merge. Without knowing why, she touched it. The world slammed back into place. Hard. Walls, wind, sirens. Ava was lying in the school's front courtyard. Alone. No hallway. No doors. No Leo. Just her. And a sky full of flickering clouds. Paramedics rushed toward her. She couldn't hear them clearly. Just muffled phrases like, "She's alive," and "How long was she missing?" She tried to speak, but her voice cracked like broken glass. Someone wrapped her in a blanket. Someone else asked for her name. Ava hesitated. Her mind raced. Which Ava was she now? She finally answered, voice flat. I think I'm the one who made it back. No one understood what she meant, but it didn't matter. She wasn't sure she did either. Weeks passed. She never saw Leo again. No one else remembered the hallway. No one remembered Ava even being gone. Her mom just said she must have fainted from dehydration, but Ava knew better. She still woke up at 3:33 a.m. each night. Still saw the faint outline of a stitched girl in her closet mirror. Sometimes she'd hear a knock from under her bed. 3 times. Always 3. Like something was reminding her. You escaped, but you weren't supposed to. Ava started recording everything. Videos, audio, journals, just in case another version of her needed breadcrumbs. She didn't know if the loop was closed or just dormant, but she wasn't taking chances. One day, while editing a video on her laptop, she noticed a folder she'd never created. It was titled, Exit Code Final. She clicked it. Inside was one file, a video named For the Next Ava. She hovered her mouse over it and hit play.